Hey, what's up everyone? This is going to be part 2 of the Yunli sine wave controller install in my Ti-30. Part 1 video I did was getting to the point where you have both of the motors running, single mode, dual mode, and also the Eco Turbo mode. In this video I'm going to go over all the rest of the connections for the lights, the brake sense, and whatever's left. Before I go on, I just want to reference this website. Once again, www.ordoospeed.com, ordoospeed.com. If you go to that website, here's their homepage, and then right there, this box here that says always support your scooter. If you just click on that, it's going to take you to the two files, the one, the wiring diagram that I went over in the first video and we'll use again here, and also the one for the learning mode for the motors once you get those wired up, which I used in the previous video. You can then email them yourself and open them as PDFs, which is what I did, and save them. So very good information there. The other thing, let's go back up here to their menu and to their controller store. This is actually the store for factory Yunli controllers. Ordo Speed on AliExpress, that's their store. Here it is down here, it says right here. The official Yunli factory store. Get your controller from Origin Factory. It's really good. You can get in direct touch with the manufacturer. Have really good information right there on their website for you to use with the wiring diagram and the learn features. So pretty impressed with them so far. Okay, so at this point, after the part 1 video, we have the majority of the wiring done already. So at this point, we already have both motors wired up and running properly. We have the display connected up, we have the alarm module connected up, and we have the dual single motor switch, as well as the Eco Turbo switches hooked up. So all that's already done, and so I'm just going to be moving on from there. So looking back at our wiring diagram again, I'm just going to go down the list here. There's really not a whole lot left to do. Top 2, the LCD connections, which we've already done in the first video. Next we have brake light, we need to do that yet. Speed limit, that's where we plugged our Eco Turbo switch to. And brake, we need to do that yet. So on this top section here, we have two things related to the brake that we need to do, brake light and what they're just calling brake. If we look down at the bottom here, start at the very bottom, single dual mode, we've already connected that. Voltage lock, that's where you connect your alarm module, so we've already done that. And then there's 3 more connectors that are all labeled the same, lamp/horn, lamp/horn, lamp/horn. And it shows that there's 60 volts there. So that just has your full battery voltage on those points. We'll get to the lights last. First, let's take care of these brake connections. Very first one, let's look at that one first, brake light. And it's a 2-pin female coming out of the harness with a red and gray wire on it. So if you look at our harness, here is the 2-pin female with red and gray wires, so that's going to be our brake light connection. You need to find your brake lights, which are the top 2 LEDs. So there's my 2 wires coming back, one from each side from my brake lights, the top 2 LEDs, and they both plug onto a yellow and black, which then meet in this little circuit here. This is an LED driver board, and then on the other side there's a red and black wire, 2-pin male. This is actually the input to the LED driver, and that's what we're going to connect up to the 2-pin female red and gray wire coming out of the harness there. Alright, so I have that connected. Again, the 2-pin red and gray wire to 2-pin female plugged onto my 2-pin male red and black that goes to the LED driver, that then goes to these 2 yellow and black outputs, which then goes one each to each of your brake lights, which are the top LEDs on the back here. Okay, so that's the brake light connection. Next, let's look at this one that they have labeled brake. It's a 2-pin male with gray and black wires. And this is actually the brake sense line. On the scooter side, you're going to find a cable coming down from the stem. And it's going to have a 2-pin female with black and red wires on it. One way to test this is if you put a ohm meter across the two pins and then pull one of your brake levers, you'll see that there's a connection between the two wires when your brake handle is pulled, and when you release the brake handle, it goes away. So that's all the brake sense is. It's the connection and disconnection of these two wires. So you can test that with an ohm meter if you're not quite sure. I'm pretty sure it's only 2-pin female with red and black wires coming down from your handlebars. So that's what we're going to want to connect up to the gray and black 2-pin male coming out of our wiring harness. And here it is. Gray, black wires, 2-pin male, so that's going to be the brake sense. Then I'm going to connect up to my 2-pin female red and black wire. Okay, so I have it connected now. Again, the gray and black 2-pin male from the cable harness to a red and black 2-pin female that runs up to our brake handle. So when we apply the brake handles, it connects these two wires for the brake sense line. So all those are done on top. What really we only have left, we've already done the single due motor in the first video, the voltage lock, which is your alarm plug in the first video. All that's left there is a few 60-volt connections that say lamp horn. That's for our lights. We'll do that last, but at this point I should be able to turn on the display and apply my brake lever and see my brake light come on. Okay, so just to test this, I've turned on my display. I'm now going to pull my right brake handle while I watch for the brake lights. And my brake lights come on when I pull and release. Try my left lever, same thing. So the brake sense connection and my brake light connection that we just did are both correct and good. Okay, so really all I have left to hook up are my lights, and on the Ti-30 there is a cable that connects all your lighting systems together and has one input for the battery voltage. So all we need to do is connect one of these connections, and they all look the same, other than that one looks like it only has the negative wire going to it. So we'll use one of these other ones, and that will connect up to our lighting cable from the Ti-30, which will then distribute to your horn and headlight switches and all of your lights through that cable. So I'm not going to go over that cable in regards to your lighting. The only thing connecting from this Yunli controller to your Ti-30 regarding any kind of lighting is this power input, one single connection. All the rest is done internally on the Ti-30. If you need that information, I have that on the video I did on the original stock controllers installation, the part 2 of those. I'll link that down in the comments, but I go over all those internal connections on that video, so I'm not going to go over those here. I'm just doing the connections that are going directly to the Yunli controllers. In the Ti-30, it has this distribution cable for your lights and horn and the switching associated with that. It's done by this little board here. It's covered up. There's 2 ends to it. One end has 3 connections, 3 cables coming out of it. The other has 6, I think. So we're looking at the center with the 3 connections, and we have one cable that's red, blue, and black. That should already be connected unless you disconnected it. And that goes up through this cable to the headlight switch and also the horn switch. So it's taking power to the headlight and horn switches. The second connector out of there is a 2-pin female on that 3-arm side, and that's going to go directly to your horn. There's going to be a 2-pin male coming down from your horn that will plug onto that. And this third one is our power in. That's what I'm looking for right now. So technically, unless you disconnected them, switching these controllers has nothing to do with any of your light connections other than the power into the circuit. I'm not going to go over all those connections. I've done it in that controller installation video part 2, and it's right near the beginning of that video. Anyway, moving on, I need to put power. This is our power input to all my lighting circuits. So I need to put power to that. I'm going to look for one of the red-black 2-pin females coming out of that harness there. There's 3 of them. They're all the same. One of them looked like it didn't have 2 wires on the picture, but I think that was just a drawing error because they all have 2 wires. Also, I checked, and these 3 are all the same. The black on one side and the red on the other, they all match each other, so there's not one that's polarity different. And I also put a voltmeter on all these, and they all have the battery voltage on them. All right, so I've just picked one randomly. Again, they're all identical, so there's 2 extra ones there. And I plugged it onto my power input. Again, the 2-pin male coming out of the 3-arm end of this. Before you turn on power, headlights or anything, just make sure when you're making your connections, anytime you're making connections in a scooter, if there's a red and black, make sure red goes through the red, black goes through the black. All right, so I have power going into my light distribution circuit here. I don't have a lot of things connected here because I'm no longer using the stock side lights, horn, and I'm not using the stock headlights as well. So I have a lot of connections here I'm not using. Really, the only thing I'm getting out of this cable now is the distribution, the switching to my headlights and tail lights. My other accessory lights are going through a separate 12-volt system through some converters on a totally separate circuit unrelated to this. So I just have my headlights and my tail lights on this at the moment. I should be able to turn my headlight switch and get my headlights to come on as well as my tail lights. Turn my switch on. Headlights are working. Bottom tail lights are working, so everything's good. All right, so I think that about does it. We've connected everything up. Let's go over our diagram one more time. LCD, 2 connections, power and signal, we've done that. Brake light, we've connected up. The speed limit, this is the Eco Turbo switch, we've connected up. The brake sense line, we've connected up. There's 3 lamp horn connections. We only needed 1 to run to our lights/light switch distribution cable that's internal to the Ti-30, so all we need to do is run 1 of these, the power to it. We've done that. Voltage lock, that's the connector you plug your alarm module onto. We've done that. And single dual motor mode, we've done that. So we've connected everything here. Everything should now work on your scooter. If there's any connections in here you still don't know about that aren't covered in either this video or the first video for the Yunli controllers, then it's an internal connection to the scooter and it doesn't connect directly to the controllers at all. If I end up leaving these in there, which I suspect I will, then I'll go back at a later date, clean up the wiring, route it nicer, get rid of the wire nuts on the phase wires and hard solder them, make a better, cleaner connection, do stuff like that. But for right now, I just want to get everything, stuff the wires back in there, get the battery back in, throw the deck on, and then go take it out and do some testing with it. Mainly, I want to see if it cures the problem I had with the original controllers where at 60 volts I lost my dual motor capability, and at 58 volts it was cutting out my rear motor to the point where I could only go about 15 miles an hour. Alright guys, so I got all the wiring, everything tucked back in, put the deck back on, waited for the sun to go down so it would cool off a little bit, and I just took this thing for a 12-mile ride. The problem I was hoping to fix that I was having with the JP controllers is indeed gone at this point. I had no problem riding this thing, and my voltage now, it's been sitting a while, under 58 volts, but before when I first stopped riding it was around 56.5 or so. It does recuperate as it sits a little bit. So I ran it further down past 58 volts where I was having the problem before where I could only go up to like 15 miles an hour and getting the stuttering on the rear motor. At 60 volts with the old JP controllers I couldn't use dual motor mode, it would start cutting out. So even at this voltage I ran this down, like I said, 57 volts or so. And I could still use dual motor modes and go very fast still. So that problem's gone. Other than that, very smooth acceleration. It is a lot smoother than the JP controllers. Plenty of speed still. Dual motor mode, 3rd gear. It's just fast. Has a lot of torque still. A lot of acceleration. I did hit 50 on it. It does have latency on the throttle. In other words, you give it throttle and it takes a second to respond, maybe half second. Same thing when you let off the throttle. It takes a half second or so for it to respond. So you can literally, when you first let off the throttle, you're still going. It doesn't slow down right away. That's going to take a little getting used to. However, Yunli company, the makers of these controllers, I've seen on their website, they are coming out soon. Well, I don't know how soon, but they have in development a new display. It's called the DS20, and it's supposed to eliminate that latency problem. I hope to get one of those and try that out. I like these things. I will like it better with the new display if I get one, if I can eliminate that latency problem, because it is really kind of weird when you're like going 40 miles an hour and you let off the throttle and you still keep going for a half second before it starts slowing down. Although when you do hit the brake handles, that kills the power to the motors. So if you had to stop, as soon as the second you hit the brakes, the motors will be disengaged. That's it for this one. Take care, peace, ride safe.